Hey guys, Christine here, a designer at Zurb. Welcome to part 5 of 6 of our Zero to Website series. By the end of this series, you'll have learned to build your very own responsive website with Foundation. So today, we're going to be applying visual styles to a scaffold that we built last week. If you missed that lesson last week, click here to get up to speed. So let's dive right into the code. So first, break down the different areas of visual styling we'll be focusing on today. There are several major areas that will define the look and feel of your site. Things like spacing, color, font choice, and sizing, and of course, imagery. So in visual styling, we want to cover all of these areas in broad sweeps. This means that we're going to take a look at the outermost containers first, and then move inward. So what this means is we usually start with styling our body tag, and then kind of create styles that will capture most things at once. Once we have these body styles defined, we'll move on to smaller areas of the site and focus more on like our header nav, our gallery, and our footer. So this is where we are going to create more specific classes for individual elements in order to get the site to look exactly like we want it to. So let's actually start by taking a look at the design that we are going to be following. So this is Laura's portfolio, and I am going to be styling this website exactly as I see it here. So we'll probably want to start with like things like the background color, some padding around all of our content, and also font. So looks like Laurel has a slight gray background color, so I'm just going to use this color picker extension that I have in my browser, and I'm going to copy this color. Head back into my code, and I'm going to go into my app.css file. This is where I'm writing all of my custom CSS. So I'm going to target body, and then background color, and then I'm just going to paste that hex code in there, and then I'll save it and refresh it here. Can't really see the change because the color is so light. Next, I'm gonna set our body font. So the font that Laurel is using is probably not free. I'm going to go to Google Fonts and just pick out a font for myself. So I'm going to use Nunito for this. So for those of you who haven't used Google Fonts before, this is super easy to find like free fonts that you can pull in right into your code. And these are all free, so you don't have to worry about like copywriting stuff or licensing issues here. So I'm just gonna grab this link here. This is the link that's going to allow us to use the Google font. And then I'm gonna head back into my code and then go all the way up to the top. Inside of my head tag, I'm going to paste this link right in here, and then I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna head back to my CSS file and then type font family. In the Google font site, they actually give this to you, so I'm just gonna copy and paste it. And then let's go ahead and give our entire body some margin. So I'm going to do margin 3 rem. Save it. Cool. So now we have some nice margins around all of our content, and our font has also changed. So that looks good. Another thing that we have to do to make sure that our font is working on all of our pages is to make sure we're going to copy and paste this in all of our pages. Otherwise, if I had, if I was linking the font in this page and not in my about page, then the font would only work in the page that I have my have this link in. So cool, it's looking good. So as you can tell, the paragraph text has changed, but my header text is still hasn't changed at all. So we're going to have to target this separately later on. Okay, now let's move on to our header styles. So we're actually going to target these headers in our about page and our contact page. So in our app.css, I am going to, I'm going to first go into my about.html page and then check that I'm using the right headers. So I'm using H1, which is correct. And then here, I'm going to change this to H1. I'm going to save that and then head back to my CSS file. And here I'm going to target my H1 tag. And then I'm first going to change the size of the font because it is way too big right now. I'm going to do 1.3 rem. See, and then let's take a look. So that's a pretty good size, I'd say. Next, I am going to change the font. So for this, I'm actually going to head back to Google Fonts and search for a new font. I'm going to use Montserrat. So I'm going to click on this plus sign here, and that's going to add this to my reference link. So I'm actually going to, now if you take a look at this, it's added another font to the link. And I'm just going to copy and paste this into the head of my files. So I'm going to replace this one because we don't need this. I'm going to update it actually. Then I'm going to do the same here, save, also here, and then save. Okay, now in my CSS, I'm going to use Montserrat as my font family for my H1 tag. And then we want to have some backup fonts in case in case this font doesn't load. These are the fonts that it'll use. Arial sans serif. And then I'm also going to change the font weight to be a little bit heavier. So let's take a look. Refresh. All right, so looks like that's working, and I don't know about you guys, but I think our site is already looking better with these fonts installed. So the next thing we're going to do is start focusing on each section of our site and then start giving each of these sections more specific styles. So let's head to Laurel's portfolio and take a look at how we want to start styling this header nav area here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to head to my index.html, and I'm going to remove the helper classes that I added in here while we were scaffolding, and then move those styles into into a more specific class. So like this text center class that we're using here, I'm just going to delete that. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything that's in this div. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to delete it and create another container with a more specific class. So this one I'm going to call header nav, and then paste everything that was in there back in. And then I'm going to head to my app.css file, and target my header nav class. And then I'm going to move that text center styling into this area. So I'm going to give it a text align rule and then center everything. So next, let's fix up the spacing of our header nav. Let's just give this a little bit of a margin. Let's give it margin bottom 30 rem. Then save. Take a look. Okay, so now we have some nice, comfortable margin spacing underneath our header nav. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in this image. So I've already saved out all of these images from Laura's portfolio and placed them inside of an image folder in my project folder. So these are all of my images that I'm going to use. So for this header here, I am going to place my my logo image. So in my index.html, I'm just going to replace this placeholder image and reference the logo inside of my image folder. Save, refresh. Okay, well that's way too big. So now what we're gonna do is, for images, I like to just set the width inside of my image tag. So let's do 150. Cool. It's still a little big, I think. I'm going to go for 100. Okay, feels pretty good now. So now I want to give my image a little bit of margin beneath it. It's a little too close to that paragraph right there. So in my app.css file, I'm going to write header. I'm going to target this image inside of my CSS. So I'm going to target header nav space image, and then write in margin bottom 1 rem should be enough. Feels pretty good for now. You might want to change it later, but this works. And then next we are going to add some styling to the text beneath our logo. So this text right here, to look a little bit more like that. So it's just a little bit of styling, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to my index.html, and then for this p tag, I'm going to add a class of header nav subtitle. So the way that I'm naming my classes is I'm starting with the component first. So I'm calling this the component, this entire header navigation area. And then I'm naming my p tag inside of that header nav with header nav subtitle. So this makes it very clear what the subtitle is and what component it's tied to. So this is kind of a best practice. You want to namespace your class names. So what that means is you want to start with a component and then end it with, you know, the actual item of that you're trying to style. In this case, I'm calling this a subtitle. So in my app.css now, I'm going to target header nav subtitle. And then I'm going to set a font size of 1 rem, not fem. And then give it a little bit of letter spacing. I want to give it just a little bit. So I'm going to do 0.05 rem and then save. Oh, I didn't save my index.html. So I'm going to save my index.html where I've added my new class. I'm going to refresh, and then there. It's spaced out a little bit and it looks a little bit nicer. So the next thing we'll do is we're gonna move on to our menu. So these 3 links down here. And we're gonna wanna make it look a little bit more like this. So these links look a lot more clickable. We're going to give it some hover styles and then kind of fake this active link right here. Now in our menu, we are going to go through each of our A tags, our anchor tags, and then give it a custom class. Let's call this header nav link. And apply this class to all of our links. Save that. Now in our CSS, I'm going to target header nav link. And then we are going to write styles to capitalize them and then make them a little bit bolder. So I'm going to do text transform uppercase, and then font weight, let's do 600. Cool. So it's always satisfying to, refresh your page and see the changes that you've made. So now I actually want to set the font color. So for the font color, I'm gonna grab this color here if I can. Well, that's actually kind of hard because the hover style is in the way. I'm just gonna use black. So color, and the hex code for black is 000. That's kind of a shorthand. Save that. Refresh. I always like to refresh a lot, save a lot, refresh a lot, and then see the changes to make sure that whatever I'm doing is working and, applying the styles the way that I want them to. So now I'm also going to give it some letter spacing. I think that's enough. Our font is a little bit different from what Laurel has on our website, but that's okay. So now let's give our links some nice hover styles. So actually, I could do this. I'm going to right click and inspect this element. So the inspector is a really great tool to check out the code behind any website. So I just want to grab this color. So this is the color of our active link. What I'm going to do to set this active link is go into my index.html and then give portfolio, the class is active. Save it, go to my app.css, and then now I'm going to target is active. And then make the color this active color, and then refresh. So now you can see our portfolio link has changed colors, and it looks like an active state where we're on this link and the color is changed to this color to, tell us that we're on this link, or on this page. Next, let's grab the hover color. I'm gonna inspect again. And then here in our inspector, a really cool thing that you can do is you can click on this hover toggle and then check hover. So now I can see whatever hover color this is. So it looks like it's actually changing the opacity of the regular active link. But what I'm gonna do is I am just going to hover over and grab this color. So now I am going to target the hover state of my header nav link. I'm gonna set the color here. I'm gonna save and then check that out. Oh, wrong one. I'm gonna refresh this. Oh, what I forgot to do is target the hover state. So to target the hover state, I'm going to do : hover. Okay, let's save that and refresh. Cool, and now we have a nice hover color on our header nav links. So that's pretty much it for our header nav. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take this code, this header code, and then apply it to all of these. I'm just gonna copy over it because our header is going to be the same in each page. And then for the about page, I'm going to move my isActive class to the about link because we want it to look like we're on that page, and set that to the correct link. Do the same for contact. Now let's take a look. Cool, so that's working. And that's working. Awesome. Next, we are going to move on to our gallery area. So most of the visual styling on this has been taken care of for us by our block grid. And now all we need to do is give the gallery some padding at the top and probably at the bottom. And then also replace all of these placeholder images with our preview thumbnails. So another thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to wrap my images around an anchor tag because ideally we want this to link us to another page that will tell us more about the work. I'm just going to copy and paste this into here for now. So now all of my images are links. And then to give my gallery some spacing at the top and the bottom, I'm going to take this entire block grid here and then contain it inside of, let's not call it gallery, let's call it content, because this is the main content of our page. This is the stuff that's going to change between each page. And because we named this content, we're going to use this same class for the content of our other pages. So that's just kind of keeping ahead of your CSS and thinking in terms of components. So I'm going to head to my CSS file, target content, and let's give this 3 rems padding 0 on this. Do we want 0? Let's do 0. Let's do 1 rem on the sides. I'm going to save this. So this is actually a shorthand for writing margins. What this is defining is actually 3 rems of margins at the top, 3 rems of margin at the bottom, 1 rem of margin left and right. So it's basically a shorter way of writing that, so we don't have to write it all out. I'm just going to save this. And then refresh. So now I have a good amount of margin spacing between the top and bottom. I also gave it a little bit of margin spacing left and right. I actually don't really like how much margin spacing I'm giving my content here, so I'm gonna say 0. And then save that. So that's pretty good, I think. All right. Now let's head back to our index.html file And so one thing I wanted to point out is the reason that I'm containing all of this around its own div is because we don't want to break up the block grid styling by containing the columns. So these block grid classes are relying on these columns coming right after this row in order to work. So this is why we're containing the entire thing around a div, this content div. Next, I am going to replace all of these images. So let me just check what my file names are. I just named them thumb-123456789. So I'm gonna go ahead and link them up here. I think it's a PNG. Yes. Oh no. It's a JPEG. Okay. Now I'm gonna replace all of these images. I'm gonna go through and rename all of these. 5, 6, 7, 2. Okay, so now I'm gonna refresh, and oh, one of my images are not linking. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, this one is a PNG. I'm just gonna change that to a JPEG. Awesome. So now this is already looking pretty good, I think. So we're just gonna leave this. Our gallery area is pretty much done. We're gonna move on to our footer now. So for my footer area, I'm just going to start by replacing all of these placeholder images with some social media icons. So you might have, different places where you can grab some of those icons. A good website that I like to use, and the place where I got all of these icons here is iconfinder.com. So that's a pretty good resource. So you can go ahead and check that out and grab some icons from there if you want. But I already have some in my image folder, so I'm just gonna go ahead and link these up here. This image, I'm gonna start with Pinterest, and then LinkedIn. Behance, and CodePen. And then you're going to want to make sure to replace these hrefs to link to your actual profile pages. For the purpose of this, I'm going to leave this empty for now since I don't know all of Laurel's profile links. Let's save it and take a look. So here are all of our icons, but they're a little too big. I'm gonna go ahead and set a width. Start with 30 and see how this looks. So that's looking better, but not all of these icons are from the same icon family, so the sizes are a little bit wonky, particularly these two. So I'm just going to make those a little bit bigger. Let's try 33. And I think that looks pretty good. So there's our footer. I think that's pretty much it for our footer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy our footer and then paste it into our about and contact.html files, because our footer should look the same on all of these pages. Cool. All right, that's looking good. So that was super simple. We didn't really even need to add any styles to that. We just replaced a couple of images. Next, we are going to start styling our about.html content section. So all this stuff in the middle. I'm going to start by grabbing all this content and then wrapping it around a content div. So this is going to give us some padding, which is just what we needed. Next, let's replace our placeholder images. We only have one here. I've already gotten this nice photo of Laurel. So I am going to link that up here. .jpg. There she is. All right. The next thing we're going to do is called source ordering. So what this means is we're going to rearrange the columns so that on small, our image will show up on top of our text. Right now it shows up below our text, but we want this to be on top. And then on medium, our image will be after the text. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is change my text so that makes a little more sense. I'm just going to copy and paste whatever Laurel has in here. Copy this. And then paste it in here. Cool. So source ordering, I'm going to pull up our foundation.zurb.com docs, and then I'm going to look up the grid. So the way that we are going to rearrange these columns on different screen sizes are these push and pull classes. So first, we have to actually rearrange this content first. We want to rearrange our code so that we're seeing whatever we want to see on smaller screens first. So this is a mobile first practice. Oops. I've just moved that over. And then, so this is how we want it to look on a smaller screen. And then on a medium screen, we want this image to be on the right side. So what I'm going to do now is in my columns, in my image column, I am going to add the class push medium push 6. And then in my text column, I'm going to say medium pull 6 and then save. Ta-da! So now this column is being pushed over 6 columns, and then this text column is being pulled back 6 columns. So it's kind of giving it, it's kind of just swapped places. And it's only defined on the medium screen size. So on small, it's this is how our regular code is looking like. So our image is on top of our text here. And then something I'm going to do here is I'm going to target this image because I don't like all this tight spacing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this. I'm going to wrap the image inside of I'm going to give the image a class profile pic or about pic. That makes a little more sense. So now I'm going to go here, target about pic, margin bottom, 1 rem. So that looks a little bit better. I actually added a little bit of margin here too, but I'm okay with it. It needs some margin down there, I think. So this is looking pretty good. So that's it for this page. Let's move on to our contact page. So in our contact page, we're not really styling much. All of this is looking the way that we want it. I'm going to copy and paste this new text into my text areas. Cool, that's looking good. Now, the big part of this is actually writing the styles for our form right here, our contact form. So what we're gonna do first is I'm going to contain all of this inside of a content div so that we give all of our content some nice padding. Take this entire thing and then wrap it inside of a content div. I'm actually not liking all this margin spacing that much. Probably going to change that. Let's do that right now. So for content, I'm just gonna do 2.5. No, let's do 2. Okay, it's a little bit better. Let's check out how that looks here. Still looking okay on this page. Still looking okay on this page. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. All right, so to style our form, we are going to be targeting the default states of these form fields and also a focus state. So what I'm gonna do now is go through my form, and then for each of my inputs, I'm going to add a class of contact form field. Copy and paste this into all of my inputs and also my text area tag. Save that. Now in my CSS file, I'm gonna target contact form field and give it some styling so that it looks more like Laurel's contact form here. So I'm going to give it a border radius of, let's say, 2 pixels. Yeah, 2 pixels. How much is that in rem? Maybe 0.5 rem. It's a little too much. I'm going to do 0.1 rem. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Actually, probably 0.2 rem. Let's give it 0.2 rem. All right, it's a little more noticeable. Next, we're going to target, we're actually going to target the box shadow here because there's a little bit of a shadow. Shadow, none. I want to get rid of that. Nice, it's looking good. Just gonna inspect this to, actually, now I'm going to pick up this color And then do background color. All right, and then save that. So it's starting to look a little more like these contact forms. Now I'm going to target the focus state. So the focus state is the style that happens, or these styles, when I click into my input field. We just want it to change the background color when we focus in on our inputs. So do contact dash form dash field, whoops, not yet, and then colon focus. And then change the background color to white. Also, I'm just gonna check out what the border, oh, this is the wrong one. I'm gonna check out what this border color is here so that I can use it in my focus state. So, right there. It's actually border color. Border color. So now I'm going to try to get rid of this shadow on focus. That's going to be box shadow. There we go. All right, we're almost there. So next we are going to style this submit button here. So to target this, I'm going to give it a class. I'm going to add a class. I'm going to call this contact submit. So this class is a modifier class on top of the regular button styles. Save that and then head to our CSS file. So now I'm going to target contact submit. And then let's give it some, let's see, take a look at what it looks like. Looks like it has text transform, some letter spacing, and then a little bit more padding than what we have right now. So let's do padding 1 rem and then 2 rem. See how that looks. Background color, I'm just going to do black. Text transform, uppercase, letter spacing, let's do 0.1, no, 0.05 rem. Let's keep it consistent. Let's refresh this, and it's looking pretty good. Now we want to change the hover style so it looks like this button here. This is actually taking some default hover styles from that foundation button. Let's do 0.7 rem. A little bit shorter. All right. And then to target the hover state, I'm going to target contact submit hover. Background color black, and then background, oh no, not background. Let's do opacity 0.8. See how that looks. Cool. It's looking pretty good. And that's pretty much it. So we're done styling this contact page. It looks a lot more like this page that we have in our design. And we're done. There's your portfolio page. And there you have it. Your website's looking great. Next week, we're going to be teaching you all about how to get your portfolio up on the web and how to deploy that website using GitHub Pages. If you want to learn more about Foundation from the people who created it, click on the link here to learn more about our Foundation webinar course, where you'll learn all about our Foundation components, how to use them, and be ready to build your very own website in just a couple of hours. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, go ahead and click on the subscription button right here so that you can stay up to date with all of our lessons. I'll see you guys next week.